OAW Patron Carlos Emmanuel. Thanks again for supporting the channel. Salute to you again, sir. And if you have any requests for reviews, become a patron of OAW Entertainment at patreon.com/OAW and check out the tiers available. And without further ado, here is my review of the 2018 Yu Yu Hakusho OVAs, Two Shot and All or Nothing.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Greetings, everyone watching on YouTube, either live or after the fact. Shout out to the faithful and salute to the patrons. This is Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all, once again, a Patreon-requested review. This is going to be my thoughts, opinions, what have you, of the 2018 Yu Yu Hakusho OVAs, Two Shot and All or Nothing. Now, first and foremost, to all of the patrons watching, just to let you guys know, about an hour ago, I finished recording my commentary for the Yu Yu Hakusho OVAs. That will be up on Patreon tomorrow morning. It is going to be a Patreon exclusive. So for any of you all who want to check that out, consider becoming a patron of OAW on Patreon. You can get access to that video for as little as $1. As little as $1, you can get access to that and all future Patreon exclusive content. What I'm thinking about doing right now is I'm thinking about making all of my commentaries Patreon exclusive, just to kind of add to, you know, the potential pool of content that I can provide on Patreon. And I'm also planning on making a couple of changes to the Patreon, just some additional tiers or additional perks I want to add for potential patrons. So keep an eye out for those. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump into this review. So last year, I believe it was October of 2018, two OVAs, which were pieced together as like a 30-minute, episode, 30-minute little two-part episode for the Yu Yu Hakusho 25th anniversary was released. And of course, those are the two OVAs, one entitled Two Shot, the other entitled All or Nothing, both of which were mini stories from the manga. And they finally got an anime adaptation. And so, of course, these were released for the 25th anniversary. They were also placed on the new Blu-ray releases for Yu Yu Hakusho's 25th anniversary. And just recently, about 2 weeks ago, Funimation finally announced that they were going to go ahead and do an official English dub for it. Now, for the sake of this review, I went ahead and I just watched the Japanese version with English subtitles. So I'll make some very brief comments on that, but I don't really have too much to share about the Japanese dub itself. Yes, I did watch Yu Yu Hakusho with the Funimation English dub. No, I had. I think I've only ever maybe watched one of the movies in Japanese, but that was a very, very long time ago. I'm talking about like I was in middle school at the time. So I don't really have too much to say about the Japanese cast and about their performances. All in all, I thought it was fine. But the entire time I was watching it, I was hearing the English voices. So that should say something. So anyway, what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to tackle each one individually, give you my thoughts on that, and then we'll follow this up with a couple of questions, and then we'll call it a night. Cool? All right. So let's talk about Two Shot first. So essentially, Two Shot tells the story of Kurama and Hiei's very first encounter, like very, very first encounter. Unfortunately, it doesn't go into much detail about like their actual relationship, why it was that they became friends. It doesn't get into that. Essentially, what it is the story goes as follows. So Kurama, as we know, in the living world, his backstory is that he is Kurama's a spirit fox from Demon World, and we know about the incident in which he fled to the human world and he hid himself inside the womb of a human woman. And so he was born sort of like this pseudo demon human half-breed sort of bit. And then over the course of his adolescence, he became more and more spirit aware, started to slowly gain his powers back, and essentially he's sort of in hiding in human world. Well, the OVA takes place a year before he, Kurama, and Goki steal the 3 sacred items from Spirit World. So it takes place a year before they meet Yusuke. And it's the very first time he and Hiei meet up for the first time, because 2 things are going on. Essentially, Kurama is being hunted by another apparition, one that Kurama had to sort of force out of the city because of the threat that he posed. Meanwhile, Hiei has made it to the human world because he's looking for another apparition that he believes might be able to provide him with some type of information on Yukina. Because remember, Hiei leaves Demon World for the human world because he's looking for Yukina, because he leaves after he gets his Jiganai implant. And so that sort of, I guess you could say, like the mistaken identity of the 2 apparitions, because it wasn't even clear if it was the same apparition, if it was the same demon that they were both dealing with. But essentially, Hiei mistakes Kurama as a hired muscle for the demon he's looking for, and he mistakes Hiei as the quote-unquote help that demon threatened Kurama with. So eventually, one of Kurama's classmates gets captured by the demon, and so they kind of band together to take the demon out. And essentially they find out, Kurama's able to save the girl. He wipes her memory, so she can go on and live her life. Meanwhile, Hiei is still on his quest to find Yukina. So, like I said, it's their first meeting. We don't really deal with their relationship yet. That hasn't been formed yet. Their friendship hasn't been formed yet. So it's just, the first hoorah for the boys, right? So, real brief, I'll go ahead and I'll give my thoughts on that. In terms of a story and in terms of an OVA, this was the one I thought merited the 14 to 15 minute time limit. I couldn't see this stretched out for an entire episode. I think it would have, you could do it, but unless you're going to dwell into establishing the foundation for their friendship, if you're not going to do that, then yeah, I don't see why this would be like a full, 24-minute episode. I don't see it. Do I think that they could have added a lot of those things into it? Well, yeah. Hell, you could have very easily have gotten a 1-hour episode if all of that was brought into it, but that wasn't the intention. And so the OVA as it stands, the way it's written, the way it's paced, all in all, I think they did a decent job. The animation is cool. I will say though, once again, going back to the Japanese voice actors, those aren't the voices I associate with those characters. Like for Hiei to have that deep of a voice with that small of a body is just weird to me, right? It's a little weird. And Kurama's voice seems too light. Like that, there's that running joke in Yu Yu Hakusho that Kurama is often mistaken for a girl, but he sounds like one in the Japanese dub, and I think that's because there might be a female voice actress that is doing his voice. But yeah, it was just kind of weird. Like I said, the whole time I was watching it, I was hearing Chuck Huber and oh man, what's my man who does Kurama? Oh, I got his name in my head, but I feel like if I try to say it out loud, I'm a butcher the pronunciation of his last name. But anywho, not a problem. But okay, so I will say what I liked about it. Like I said, animation was pretty cool. The biggest thing I liked about that OVA was how it incorporated a lot of the background music from the original soundtrack. I was kind of anticipating them doing like updated versions, which I think 1 or 2 of them might be an updated version. But it was more faithful to the original music than I anticipated. Because I thought all of the music that was going to be in the OVAs was going to be like new renditions, covers, and whatnot. And it was going to, reference back to the original, but it was still going to sound like something new. Nah, as soon as you hear it, you automatically recognize it. So all in all, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. All right. So all in all, that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on Two Shot. Now let's go ahead and let's talk about All or Nothing, because this is the one I think I have more to talk about. So All or Nothing. Let's talk about this one. All right. So All or Nothing, from what I gather, which is very, very odd, very, very odd. I can't figure out if All or Nothing was supposed to take place, because it seems like it was supposed to take place before the final episode of Yu Yu Hakusho. It can't possibly take place before that, because if it did, that would contradict some of the things that happened in the final episode of Yu Yu Hakusho. But given the way it ends, it suggests that it took place right before the final episode, which is very, very odd. But essentially what All or Nothing is, now roll with me on this one because it's actually pretty cool. So Yusuke gets approached by the Spirit Defense Force, the SDF. They inform him of a hostage situation in Spirit World. There is a group, a militant group called the Four Holy Warriors, or the All Holy Warriors, however you decide to do that translation. But essentially, this was sort of like the extremist group in Spirit World. They were, historically speaking, in terms of the Yu Yu Hakusho continuity and the mythology, they were what you would consider the wrath of God. They were the ones who were employed, or deployed rather. They were the ones who were deployed like once a millennia, whenever there was a huge sort of, I don't want to call it an eradication, but essentially whenever humanity, if you will, became so decadent that there was sort of that righteous cleanse, that act of God, that natural catastrophe that had to take place to sort of like reset, they were the ones responsible for that. Which I thought was a very interesting concept. So essentially, the Great Flood, that would have been them. Dude, what's crazy about it is the way the group is described in the OVA. I kept thinking of the League of Assassins, or the League of Shadows from Batman Begins, right? Whenever civilization is at the height of its decadence, we return the balance, right? We restore the balance. We sacked Rome. We set London on fire, that sort of thing, right? Because that's what they sound like. So this is what happened. The group became radicalized and they turned on Spirit World. Because if you all will recall, the way we left Spirit World, Human World, and Demon World at the end of the series, because of what happened in the Demon World tournament, demons were no longer allowed to pretty much feed on humans and attack humans in the living world. And well, actually, okay, real quick, because if memory serves, they weren't allowed to enter human world at all, but there were stragglers, right? There were demons who would still go to human world. And that's where the special sort of, what would you call them? They were kind of like a special caravan of demon hunters. And Hiei was one, I think he was the head of that caravan. But essentially what they would do is they would go and get the stragglers and bring them back, right? So they weren't necessarily like, it's not like they were hunting demons. They weren't like bounty hunters. But what they would do is whenever demons pretty much made it into human world, they would go and scoop them up. They would wipe the human's memory of the encounter, and then they would just take the demons back to Demon World, right? So, and the same thing would go if a human ever stumbled into Demon World, right? Because that started happening, and then they would go and they would escort them back to Human World because the Kakai barrier was brought down. That was the thing. The Kakai barrier was brought down, and essentially there was peace between Demon World and Human World. And because there was peace between those two fronts, essentially peace between Demon World and Spirit World. So it was kind of like this strange sort of utopia, you know, which is kind of funny because if you all remember, that was supposed to be Yusuke's wish for winning the Dark Tournament was world peace. Essentially, by the end of Yu Yu Hakusho, we kind of got that between the three realms because there were no more like, you know, murders and all that type of jazz going on, right? Because of that, there was no longer use for Yusuke as a spirit detective, so that's why he was let go. So what happens with All or Nothing? Yeah, this radical group, right, the Holy Warriors or whatever, because of that peace treaty, they were like, nah, bruh, bump that. It's like, no, it's like y'all are freely allowing demons to enter Human World. That's wicked. That's perverted. That's you know, it's not righteous. It's like we have to restore order. We have to restore balance. And so they take over Spirit World, right? They hold all of the employees and whatnot, Koenma, Botan, all of them hostage, and they threaten that if the Kakai barrier isn't put back into place, they will fire the dimensional cannon, which is essentially the weapon they utilized in the past to create those great you know, disasters, right? Those great, you know, events, right? So Yusuke gets the boys back together. We got the team, you know, we got the boys back, right? We get the boys back together. We get the band back together. They infiltrate Spirit World. Little by little, they're kind of working their way through the group until they finally get to where the hostages are. And then, of course, it's a rescue mission. But the mission kind of comes to a standstill, as it were, when even though they save the hostages, the dimensional cannon is still set to go off. Like even taking out the leader, you know, taking out the group, it's like the cannon is still set to go off. And they don't, like, they got an option of 3 buttons, nothing's labeled, they don't know what's what. And it even says that if the device is tampered with, it will self-destruct, right? Thus, you know, destroying, I don't think they didn't say it would destroy Spirit World, but it would like, pretty much like Spirit World HQ, it would destroy all of that. It would level the whole thing, right? So essentially, Yusuke evacuates, like they evacuate Spirit World HQ. They also evacuate his hometown because that's one of the sites that's selected for the cannon. Because of course they blame Yusuke for being responsible for the treat, you know, for the peace that was reached at the end of the series, which he is responsible. So anyway, so like they evacuate, you know, get as many people as they can out of the city. They get, you know, as many people as they can out of Spirit World HQ. And then essentially Yusuke stays behind. And as luck would have it, he ends up pressing the right button and he saves everybody, right? So that's pretty much All or Nothing in a nutshell. All right. So here's my thoughts on All or Nothing. Dude, I wish this was a story arc. I wish it was a full-blown story arc. Because conceptually, I totally dig it. It's funny, I did not know where they would go or where you could go with Yu Yu Hakusho, having it in the way it did. But you know what's kind of funny? What they did with Yu Yu Hakusho is sort of the same thing I anticipated would happen with Supernatural. Because once again, how do you topple the greatest threat you could ever have other than the devil himself, right? That's the problem Supernatural had in season 5, and it's kind of the same thing Yu Yu Hakusho had at the end of Saga of the Three Kings. Why? Because we have just gone up against the rulers of Demon World. We went up against Yomi. Like, how could you ever have a threat as great as that antagonist, right? And then, of course, where do we leave the state of the series afterwards? There's peace. So how could you ever create another threat? Just like Yu Yu Hakusho, right? Right? It was the same notion I had with Supernatural. Okay, well, if the conflict between heaven and hell has resolved itself, why not do a civil conflict in heaven, right? And that's what they did with All or Nothing. I'm like, oh snap! Like there's civil unrest in spirit world itself. It's an internal conflict. I totally dug it. I liked the idea of them being like this militant, radicalized terrorist group, right? Because they were a militant group, probably the most militant, which is real funny. Because remember when the SDF was first introduced in Yu Yu Hakusho, right? Towards the end of chapter Black, like they talked about the SDF as if it was like, oh my god, like they're the most elite of the elite of the elite, right? Well, clearly y'all ain't the ones sending floods and great fires and earthquakes. Like y'all weren't the ones to wreak planetary devastation. Yes, I did just say that the way I said it, pun intended, planetary devastation. Y'all weren't the ones to employ pain, right? These guys were. So to have these guys come out of the woodwork and, you know, this radicalized group, like I dug it. I totally dug it, right? And I like that, once again, an internal struggle within spirit world. That seems like the type of thing to get Yusuke to come back, right? Because anyone who could help was already taken hostage. How could they, like who better to seek help from the outside than someone who knows spirit world well enough, right? But also has the connections in demon world as well, and he's not actually there because he's back on Earth, right? So it was perfect. Like it kind of made sense. I dug the concept so much. I wish it was like a either a full-blown story arc or at least a movie. Like you could very easily get 90 minutes out of that concept. And we know, because I think Togashi did originally write this story, right? We know Togashi knows how to do, you know, the operations and infiltration and all that type of shit. Because if you've seen Hunter x Hunter and you've seen the Chimera Ant arc, that is very much that type of story. It was this huge threat, and the characters had to gather together. They had to break out all the stops, all the blueprints, all the analytical data. They had to be at their most strategic. They had to be at their most fierce, cunning. Like it was a do or die desperation operation. Some of the best I've seen in anime, period. Like, and you know, and when they have to infiltrate, you know, the palace, and you know, all of the potential threats they run into and all of the maneuvers they have to make. Like we know Togashi can write that type of story because he's done it before. So I would have really liked to have seen that done with this premise. But you know, once again, it's an OVA. It's a 15-minute special. So this is the OVA I thought deserved more time. It was too brief. It was too brief. The other thing I will say about this OVA is it should have occurred after the ending of Yu Yu Hakusho. And I would have preferred a time skip. I would have liked to have seen this play out with an older Yusuke, an older Kuwabara, right? Because, I mean, technically Kurama would be older because he has a human body, so he would be older. But essentially, like I would have liked. Also, I would have liked to see the girls more involved, like because. So this is funny. What would trip me out, and you all, my patrons, will see this when y'all see my commentary. The biggest surprise about that OVA. So Yusuke's mom knows all about spirit world and everything. And I And I didn't know that had happened. I'm like, wait, whoa. I was like, his mom knows about all this stuff. I was like, oh man, okay. But they didn't do anything with it. I would have really liked to have seen them do something with that. But like Keiko, Shizuru, Yukina, we got a very, very, very brief, extremely brief cameo from Genkai. I would have liked to see Genkai come back in some capacity because it was too small. Right? But I would have really, really liked to have seen this fleshed out into a much, longer production. But other than that, animation. Oh, here's the other thing too, because I talked about this on my Yu Yu Hakusho 8 Years Later video when we were talking about the notion of like either a Yu Yu Hakusho remake or a sequel or anything like that. I will say this. For this animation, the quality of it, because of course the technology and everything is better now. The way it looks, like if we're gonna do anything new Yu Yu Hakusho, in hindsight, let me go back and reiterate, or rather change my opinion. I'm gonna change my stance on what I said in that video. If you're gonna do new Yu Yu Hakusho, it has to be new Yu Yu Hakusho. Like seeing this new animation, same thing with Two Shot, just like it was with All or Nothing. To see this new animation when we're telling stories of the past, it kind of kills it for me. Like if you're going to do this new animation, it needs to be a new story. It needs to be new material. We should be in the future, preferably time skip, but we should be dealing with an adult Yusuke and an adult Kuwabara and an adult Kurama and an adult Keiko. Like we should jump ahead. Because using this animation, going back, it kind of breaks the illusion for me. But that's just me. That's just my personal take. Doesn't mean the animation is bad. No, it's actually great. It looks phenomenal, which is why I said let's go forward with it. Let's move forward with it. Dialogue was on point. The comedy was on point. Once again, Kuwabara and Hiei, their banter never gets old. Kurama and his sort of like, of course, his like matter of fact sort of dry humor is back on point. Yusuke, his gusto, his temerity, if you will, is on point once again. But yeah, like I said, my only real complaint with it, too short. Too short, and I wish the supporting cast was more involved. I wish Botan was more involved. I wish Keiko was more involved. All the girls, essentially. I wish the girls were more involved. But other than that, like I dug All or Nothing. It's my favorite of the two. I think it's the best of the two as well. Because as even though I wish it was more fleshed out, they got a lot done in just 15 minutes. So I give them credit for that. All right. So all in all, like I said, I highly recommend you guys check it out. I will be looking forward to the English dub when it finally does come out. I think that English dub is going to be part of the Blu-ray release that Funimation is doing, because that 25th anniversary Blu-ray, I believe, was only a Japanese release. I don't think that specific release made it stateside yet. And I think that the OVAs are supposed to be part of the English release for that Blu-ray set. So yeah, I'm probably going to get that, because I've been waiting to get the series on Blu-ray for like a complete set. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so this is as good a time as any, as good as an excuse as any to go ahead and finally get that. So I'm gonna get that when that comes out, and I think that's due out next year. I think so. Anywho, so let's go ahead. We're coming up on the 30-minute mark. So before I decide to go ahead and jump into questions, once again, I want to right here, I want to take this time to thank Carlos Emmanuel once again for continuing to support the channel. Big, huge shout out to Carlos. He's been he's been a long time faithful of the channel. He's been a long time supporter of the channel, even before the Patreon, because Carlos was one of my top. I mean, dude, going all the way back since like 2012, Carlos was one of the top backers of the Totems Kickstarter. Like, that's how far back his support on the channel goes. He's been a patron since the Patreon launched at the top tier every month. I can't say enough. Thanks so much, man. Carlos, dude, you are in San Antonio. We need to link up, bruh. I hit you up. I sent you the email. Actually, you did leave your number with me, so that's kind of my fault because I never went ahead and called you. We need to link up, bruh. We need to link up. We need to link up. We need to do something, bruh. All right. And once again, if you all have any requests you want, whether it be a review for a movie, TV show, anime, comic, manga, anything of that nature, check out the OAW Patreon page, patreon.com/OAW. Check out the tiers. I also have a tier for discussion of the week, which we're getting two. You guys are going to get two of those this month because patrons have been requesting discussion topics. Discussion of the week will be back this month. Got two of those on deck. Also, Advice Corner, that's available. And real quick, I want to hear your thoughts on this one. I'm thinking of making top 5. Bringing back the top 5 segment as a Patreon tier. I'm thinking of doing that. I don't know exactly how I would do it. I don't know if I'm going to add a new tier or if I'm going to make changes to an existing tier. But I'm really thinking of bringing top 5 back because some people have been requesting that. And if I do bring it back, it will be one of the lower tiers, you know. But we'll see. I will make the official announcement when that happens. All right. So, and once again, please, if you all, you know what? If you want to support the channel, but you can't do it financially, guess what? Like the video. Like the video, share it on social media, share the link with your friends, subscribe if you have yet to do so, share it on Twitter, Facebook. I mean, I'm not on Instagram, but you can feel free to share it on Instagram, share it on Reddit, what have you. If you want to support the channel, but you can't do it financially, that's totally fine too. Share, like the vid, share it, thumb it up. Any and all support you guys can provide is always greatly appreciated. Always. All right. So let's go ahead and let's head to the comments. Let's see what people are talking about. I'm pretty much going to spend like maybe the next 5 to 10, no more than 10 minutes. So let's go ahead and let's hit up the comments. All right. I see Dragnauts in the house. What's happening with you, my man? Okay. Did you ever watch the two Yu Yu Hakusho movies? And okay, Dijon, I saw. Which one was it? Not the first one. Which one is Paradise Report? I think that's the second one. I want to say that's the second one. That's the one I saw. But dude, I saw that, man, I saw that back in what? 8th grade, 9th grade? I saw that a long, long time ago, dude. Really long time ago. Okay. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Okay. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Because I'm trying to think, what was the last chapter of the Yu Yu Hakusho manga I actually read? Actually, it might have been Ryzen's death. That might have been the last chapter of the manga I remember. That's the last one I remember reading, is Raizen's death. But I think I have all of the other chapters after that. I just never read them. I think now that I think about it, they might be at my dad's house. I think I do have them in a closet somewhere. They're stashed away with all of my other old manga. Bergmeyer. That's how you pronounce his name. Yes, thank you. Because I knew I was like, I could see the name in my head, but I was like, man, I'm gonna butcher this if I try to spell it out in my head. Let's see. Yeah, it went. You know what though? It wouldn't surprise me if responding to Crazy Boy. It wouldn't surprise me if they made changes to Makuro's backstory due to like censorship and stuff like that. It wouldn't surprise me. Because even the backstory that they gave her in the anime was pretty dark, all things considered. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were like, yeah, no, we got to kind of like taper this down a little bit. Okay. Non-related question. Why you cut the dreads, bro? Because I moved to Texas and it's too damn hot. Would you reach out to Uber for another discussion video? Yeah, if he's available. I have in the past. I have a group chat on Facebook for all of my like YouTube collaborators. It's just a matter of like who's available for what and when, I have the bad habit of like waiting until like the last minute to schedule uploads. You know what I'm saying? So, it's not like I plan videos out like a month in advance necessarily. If I do anything like that, it's like, okay, for an example, like at the end of this month, I've planned on doing like today, I planned on doing a video for the end of this month. You know what I'm saying? But it's not even like a full month in advance. It's only a few weeks. So it's just a matter of like who I'm able to get and when. Just people busy. Ooh, this is an interesting question. Who is the best character Togashi has written? Who I think is the best character he's ever written? That's kind of hard. That's really hard to think of. Appreciate that, Kratos. All right, so I think that brings us to the end of the questions. Okay, yeah, that was only a few minutes. All right, so that's going to go ahead. That's going to wrap up my review for tonight. Once again, I want to thank everybody for joining me again this week. And as I mentioned before, if you have any requests for, film, TV show, anime, manga, comics, advice corner, discussion of the week, anything like that, go on over to the OAW Patreon page at patreon.com/OAW. I am now accepting requests for December. November's already been booked. I'm now accepting the request for December. So if you want to get your request in, by all means, go ahead and check the page out. Check the page out. Also, for those of you all who are already my patrons, keep an eye out. The Yu Yu Hakusho OVA commentary that's going up tomorrow morning. It's going up on Patreon tomorrow morning. Like I said, it will be a Patreon exclusive, but it's available for as little as $1. So all of my patrons will be able to get access to it. All of them. All right. And then what's coming down the pipeline other than that? So I'm getting the movie reviews back on track. Currently, the next one is scheduled for tomorrow. So long as there's no like major freakouts or, if everything goes according to plan, the next movie review that's going to be out tomorrow, and then we'll get back on track, with the weekly ones. But I'll be honest with you guys, since I've fallen behind the last 2 months, I might have to double them up every week. But yeah, but anyway, the movie reviews are coming back. The movie reviews are coming back to regular, release. Let's see. So like I said, discussion of the week is going to be coming back because my patrons have requested discussion videos. So those are going to be coming back. I don't know when I'll be doing those yet. Because I'm thinking about going back to uploading on the weekends. There's a good chance I might pick those days. But keep an eye out for those because those are going to be out this month. 2 discussion of the week videos. Another thing is we're going to do like an old school sort of like hangout video, Google Hangouts live stream, like just a regular, like just chill session Q&A. I don't know when I'm going to schedule that for this month, but I'm going to start doing those, like just the regular, normal hangout live streams, chill out, one a month. I'm gonna get back to that, right? And that'll be like I'll try to get some guests in for that, And like I said, it won't necessarily be anything topical. It'll just be like us just kind of hanging out online, shooting the breeze, kicking the cans and whatnot, right? But the difference is from now on, my patrons will, I think, what is it? It's all of my patrons, $5 or up, will get an invite to join in on those, with the exception, roll with me on this one, with the exception of this month's and next month's. The first 2 of those that I get going again, all patrons will get an invite, even at the $1 tier. All of my patrons are going to get an invite for the one this month and the one next month. When the new year kicks off, that's when it'll be the $5 and up. We'll be the only ones to get the invites. But I'm doing it like that because I have a lot of $1 patrons who didn't get the perks of that tier months ago because I stopped pre-recording videos, because their perk was supposed to be that they would get early access to YouTube videos, but I stopped pre-recording. I started doing all live, right? So I'm like, well, shit, if they didn't get those perks. So instead, I'm going to start, I'm going to invite them to those live streams, which I understand it is part of the $5 tier right now. But like I said, just for the first 2, to help, ease things over, I'm going to also invite the $1 guys, right? So like I said, keep an eye out for when I do that one. That one, I will say this, that one will probably be on a weekend, a Friday, a Saturday, or a Sunday. It'll be on one of like my leisure days, right? But I will let you all know, of course, the OAW Facebook page, the OAW Twitter page, you all will find out well in advance when that hangout is going to happen. So keep an eye out for that. And then gotta get the Batman Telltale going. That is my plan for this week, to get the Batman Telltale going again. But I'm not going to announce it until I know exactly which night it's going to happen. Because once again, could be earlier in the week, could be the weekend. You all will know when Batman Telltale is finally kicking off. And like I said, follow OAW Entertainment on Facebook. Follow OAW Entertainment. I'm sorry, like OAW Entertainment on Facebook. Follow OAW Entertainment on Twitter, because that's where you all will get those updates. All right, so I'm getting out of here. I'm going to go pass out. I'm tired, Lord, I'm tired. All right. But so with that being said, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. I am signing off, and until next time, peace. Y'all be easy.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?